walking in the way of the Mandalorian, tests, allies, enemies. After completing basic training, I was sent to master both the art and the science of my chosen craft, combat. With boots in the dirt and rifle in hand, I walked the path toward becoming an 11 Bravo, an infantryman. The samurai once said, "The sword and the samurai are one." I came to understand a similar truth. To kill with precision and purpose, the rifle and the infantryman must become one. Among the ranks of grunts, I learned the cadence of breath control, a sacred rhythm in the taking of life. Upon that foundation, I was taught the mechanics of ground combat, the ruthless closeness of close quarters battle, and the grim necessity of combat life-saving. Each lesson carved something deeper into me. Uncle Sam had minted another G.I. Joe, honed, hardened, and hungry. Like a dog of war unchained, I craved my pound of flesh. I was trained to kill, and I was ready. The emblem of the infantry is a pair of golden crossed rifles, traditionally worn on the lapel, not bestowed in pomp, but earned in blood. After a grueling 2-week crucible, we ascended Honor Hill, our final trial. There, we were forged in agony. Each man received his rifles not by ceremony, but through ordeal, the metal driven into the chest, its center prong piercing the skin, followed by a hard punch to draw blood. Only then could we raise our hand and salute, not as recruits, but as brothers, inducted into a sacred fraternity of warriors. And looking back through blood, sweat, and pain, I loved every moment of it. Allies Sergeant Tucker and Sergeant Cruz. While deployed in Iraq, I was hand-selected for a private protection detail, an assignment that demanded everything, requiring us to extract high-value individuals from the very heart of chaos and escort them through some of the most volatile battlefields on Earth. Our unit carried the name Apocalypse, a moniker as foreboding as it was fitting. Each time we deployed, we did so in 4 MRAPs, steel-clad behemoths that rumbled like omens across the sand. Together, we formed a living echo of the 4 horsemen from the Book of Revelation: death, war, famine, conquest. We were their modern embodiment, armored in prophecy, charged with purpose, and thunderous in our advance. As a soldier, my role was unmistakable. I was the shield, charged with safeguarding my unit both in the calm and in the crucible of contact. And by the grace of God, not a single soldier was lost under my watch while I manned the gun. I'll never forget my first day in the turret. My supervisor turned to me, eyes sharp with urgency, and barked, "Whitney, stop. Look, we need you on that gun. You're not just a shooter, you are the angel of death. Picture it, a scythe in one hand, a cigarette hanging from your mouth, eyes locked forward. I want the enemy to feel it in their bones, down to the atoms. That cold, unshakable command presence that says, you shall go no further. And if they dare, then God help them, because the full spectrum of violence will rain down." From that moment on, every time we rolled outside the wire, the ritual began the same way. Mission check, comms check, weapons check, and then the beat would drop. The soundtrack of war, music, drowning pool, bodies. Enemy's IG-11 weapon of war. The rifle was no longer merely a tool of lead and fire. It had become an extension of will, a conduit of something darker. The ancient sword had evolved, transmuted into electromagnetic pulses. Fear no longer ruled the battlefield. Hatred did. These were days of thunder and lightning, and it was open season. We were the hunters. They were the hunted. At the time, I did not grasp the deeper truth behind the terrain we patrolled. We weren't just guarding dirt and dust. We were standing watch over forgotten relics. Ancient ziggurats, whispered stargates, portals cloaked in myth and shadow. Nor did I understand the full scale of the technology we deployed upon the population, tools that seemed to stretch the line between science and sorcery. Directed energy weapons, beams of invisible force, devastating, precise, silent. I didn't yet know what we had inherited or what we were becoming. Among these weapons was one I would come to call the electromagnetic tree of death, a device masked by its sterile name, the electromagnetic pulse weapon. Its purpose was not simply to fry circuits. It was designed to reach into the most intimate architecture of being. The pulse didn't just stop machines, it entered bodies. It threaded itself through the nervous system, inducing fear, disorientation, pain, and neurological collapse. It was engineered not to destroy cities, but to unravel consciousness. In 2009, during my deployment in Iraq, I operated such a device. I witnessed its silent fury ripple across streets and surge through human forms like a scream too deep to hear. Its effect was both magnificent and horrifying, but in wielding it, I became its casualty. The side effects struck like a curse. Angry hives erupted across my skin. Migraines splintered my skull. Nausea came in unrelenting waves. My senses betrayed me. Light scorched, sound pierced, and phantom dread crept behind my eyes like a stalking beast. Anxiety, fatigue, despair. I lived in a body that no longer felt like mine, and in my darkest hours, it felt as though my head was clamped inside the invisible fist of a demon, tightening, unrelenting, crushing, and toying with me. Music, Jelly Roll, Bottle, and Mary Jane. Allies Bo Katan cries. The sword that once made me feel invincible, cold steel gripped with the certainty of purpose, had become a shackle. Its weight no longer bore the promise of strength, but the burden of memory. Not long after I returned stateside, I met the woman who would become my wife. A flicker of light in the fog, a breath of clarity piercing through the acrid smoke of war. And yet, I remained armed. Not with rifles or grenades, but with ghosts, with guilt. With the grinning demons that come in the quiet, whispering what war never truly said out loud. This never ends. It follows you, drifting unseen through airport terminals, wrapped in the silence of dress blues and unspoken wounds. It whispers lullabies of what was lost, then slips beside you in the passenger seat, grinning like death with nothing left to prove. It echoes in empty rooms. It hides behind framed memories. And it finds you in the stillness, behind the wheel, one hand gripping the steering wheel, the other wrapped around a bottle, searching for peace in a place it was never meant to be found. And so the soldier, staring into the amber depths, turns to the POG and mutters a truth that still holds weight. You can leave the battlefield, but tell me, can you ever truly leave the war? Music, Jelly Roll, Bottle, and Mary Jane. The test, solitary confinement. Not long after returning to the States, I was arrested for driving under the influence. What followed was swift and unforgiving. 30 days in solitary confinement, a full month's pay forfeited, pretrial base, restriction, a demotion in rank, an eventual separation from the military, under honorable conditions but with a heavy heart. And so it was that I found myself behind the cold steel bars of Otero County Prison. Not just imprisoned by walls and wire, but by the consequences of choices I hadn't yet begun to understand. It was there, in that stark and silent cell, that a chaplain came to visit me. He didn't speak in fire or fury. He spoke of Jesus, of stillness, of redemption, and for the first time, I truly listened. Lying on a hard cot in that colorless room, I stumbled, almost accidentally, into the practice of meditation. With my back on the concrete, I closed my eyes, slowed my breath, and imagined what freedom might feel like. And something happened. It was as if my soul slipped quietly from the confines of my body and wandered into a land of pure imagination. Unshackled, curious, and unexpectedly alive, old memories rose to the surface like long-buried ships returning to light. I had been stripped of everything, rank, freedom, identity, but I discovered something astonishing. Breath was enough. Breath became the key to a door I hadn't known existed, a door inward, a secret of secrets. Years later, I would stumble upon the verse that gave language to the silence I had found. Stand in awe and sin not. Commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still. Selah, Psalm 4:4. And it was there, in that place designed to break men, that I picked up my first novel, James Patterson. In solitude, I found story. In silence, I found self. In breath, I began to rebuild, word by word, breath by breath.